Stop it. That makes me feel horrible.
I will just wait right here for you guys. You just let me know when you're done. I'm right here, guys.
God, now I feel so freaking guilty. Thanks a lot.
Let's get into recording. Let's get it done. Let's try and have some really good takes and just have a good conversation.
You're like, I don't know. I got to hurry up. I got some. What, your kid needs something? No, my dog is looking really sad at the top of the stairs. I have to hurry.
I have to hurry because adorable puppy is being adorable and he's not allowed in the basement, which is where we're filming. Welcome to A Spirited Life. I'm Mark.
I'm Christine.
This week we're going to be talking about all things camping, our experiences with it throughout our lives, and how we got back into it as adults.
Our whiskey of the week is going to be a whiskey that tries to embody the spirit of camping, and we will talk about what filled our spirits this past week.
We want to live a spirited life. We're documenting our journey towards financial independence while balancing that with living in the present and enjoying our time in the journey. While we want to work towards financial independence, there's no guarantee for what tomorrow will bring. So we don't want to wait to enjoy our lives because tomorrow isn't promised. We want to share our journey to help keep ourselves intentional and accountable, and we invite you to come along with us as we work towards living a spirited life. As always, we like to try to pick a whiskey that matches up with our theme for the week. And this week, because we're talking about camping, we figured there may be no better whiskey to select than the High West Campfire.
Yeah, I mean, first it says campfire on it, so, I mean, that makes a lot of sense why we would pick it to go with camping. That was one of the easiest picks of the week for whiskey ever.
I think you're right. I think that actually it's like... Oh, we're going to talk about camping. What whiskey would you select to go with that? I don't know. The one literally titled Campfire.
And look, it has this beautiful campfire on the bottle. So if you can't read, you have pictures to show you. But so this is High West. It's a distillery out in Utah.
Yep. Park City, Utah.
Park City, Utah. And this is a blend that they have to try to invoke the spirit of camping and campfires, if you would do us the honor.
I would. So this is a blend of rye, bourbon, and also scotch. And they have a nice little note on the back here. It says, Campfire whiskey is our ode to starry nights spent outside huddled close around the fire with friends. This rare blend brings together both old and new world whiskey traditions, smoky undertones of peated scotch, quintessential American bourbons, and spicy ryes combine for a complex flavor profile. Tastes of classic peat smoke give way to chai spice, orange zest, English toffee, toasted brioche, salted caramel, leather, and dark chocolate. Gather round and sip a campfire this season.
That campfire literally has every type of snack and appetizer available to it.
You know, that's a great point. Like,
I'm like, okay, I get it, the toffee, the smokiness. Then it's got like brioche.
Yeah, it's
you got
like,
some brie cheese there too with it.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't try to say like toasted marshmallow. That would have been a really
some
appropriate.
Graham cracker,
toasted marshmallow,
some
dark
hot
chocolate.
dogs on a stick.
Okay, that there are some meaty whiskeys that you can get in the peated scotches and things like that, but that might be a little awkward.
I mean, that was great that I didn't read that, so I had no idea how many snacks were coming out as you were reading it. I'm just like, okay, so.
All right, let's get down on the nose here. Yeah.
Definitely the peaty-ish first. It's not a heavy peat, but you definitely smell it.
Yeah, you get a little bit of that smokiness on the nose. You get some of that distinction. The other thing that I noticed that I wrote down as a first pour of the whiskey and just started swirling it around a little bit is that I got the Necco wafer note.
I don't even know what those smell like. I see those in little things in the candy things, and I said, forget it. It's not even worth my time.
So yeah, it's a little bit of kind of like that chalky kind of note that it's really hard to describe. But once you've had a Necco wafer, for those of you that have had a Necco wafer, like that's kind of what it is. So it's got like a slight little bit of like chalkiness to it.
Do you know what I'm getting? And this might go with the Necco wafer. Is I'm getting a stale Tootsie Roll that's been in your old bag of Halloween candy for like months past, and then you just ate it. And it's like a mixture. It's still got the Tootsie Roll chocolate tint to it, but it's got a mixture of like all the other sugars from all the other candies with it.
Yep. And now as I'm getting into this, I can definitely get that note, and it's like a Tootsie Roll. There's a little bit of that chocolatiness. There's a little bit of. I do get a little bit of the orange zest.
I was gonna say there's a citrusy thing to it. There's like a crispness to it.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting nose. I don't smell the peat so much now that I've been sniffing it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm used to it or if it's just so little, like it's just a faint that it doesn't stand out once you start digging in.
Well, I imagine that your nose probably gets acclimated to that, and so you can start picking out some of the other things. It's kind of like where you get like nose or palate fatigue, like when you don't notice the smell because you've been around it for a little while.
Yeah, I'm just surprised it happened so soon and with peat, because usually peat's something that stands out for me. So with me, I'm just surprised that it has happened as quickly as it did.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this. Cheers. It's good. It's actually surprisingly bright.
I'm trying to comprehend what I'm drinking right now, because it's got this thin underlayer of the peat all the way through. It's still there in the finish for me. It's all the way. It's like you walk by a campfire with your mouth open, like not enough that you inhaled it, but enough that you know it's there. Mm-hmm. But then it does have it's the citrusy, the spice, the tang of that old Tootsie Roll. Our camp is being invaded by wildlife.
I know. Yeah, the front of the palate does not have a lot to it. It does not start out very strong at all. In the mid palate, it starts to pick up a little bit, and then there is some of that smokiness that rolls through. And then it does the finish is not real long, but the smoke does hang out and does kind of hang on the palate a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely more mid palate for me, and it's just a very non-offensive.
Yeah.
Peat.
Now going back into it, see if you get a little bit of the iodine Band-Aid medicinal note, because I'm getting a little bit of that now.
It's so faint. It's like when I was in elementary school and you walk by the nurse's office after you had your lice test.
Yep.
Like, you know what's going on there, but it's not burning your nose quite so much.
Right. You get that slightly medicinal note.
Yeah. It's a lot of walking by with your mouth open smells I got.
Yep. It is a really interesting combination because they are trying to blend 3 different whiskeys here, and like in terms of 3 different styles.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm sure that they have a relatively hard task of trying to make sure that they pull all that out and make something cohesive.
For me, I think maybe it's too bright to be associated with a campfire, like in the woods campfire.
What I'm getting from this is I think they kind of nailed it in terms of overall approachability. Mm-hmm. The amount of smokiness, it's trying to evoke a certain sense or a certain feeling of something. Mm-hmm. It's trying to give you that bit of smokiness, that campfire essence, probably while still trying to make sure that it's approachable for more people.
Yes,
and a lot of people, at least in the United States, are not super into peated whiskey, right? It's not something that a lot of people go out and grab or things like that.
I would say, it's very approachable. And I think if you want to tip your toe into something that has peat, this is a good thing, because it's just mild enough that you taste it without being offended by it.
Yes, I would agree.
But it's still got enough of the bourbon and the rye to balance out other flavors. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, this is definitely, to me, a very approachable new peat person.
I would agree. And I think it does make it approachable for a little bit wider audience that might not normally like something smoky, but may be willing to explore something and say, oh, that's kind of novel, that's interesting, it's something a little bit different. Bourbon and rye notes aren't super present, at least not to me right now. Maybe that might change as my palate starts to wake up or something like that. I don't know.
I am getting a little bit more of the spiciness on the backside. To me, it's like the underlayer of peat is still there. Now I'm getting more of the rye spice to it. There's like a rye heft to it, minty. Okay. That I'm picking out now more that I've had a few sips.
That could be a bit of that spearmint note that I was getting, which is like that Necco wafer note. And I would say between them, I think that I probably get more of that than any sort of like traditional bourbon notes.
Yeah, I'm not getting much bourbon.
But overall, really enjoyable. And I think it does, I think they kind of nailed it in terms of what they were going for to try to evoke that essence of, it's like I walked by a campfire. It's not like I have my mouth open and got a whole mouthful of smoke or anything like that. But it's definitely there. It's definitely present. It definitely comes out in the experience. And it's definitely unique in that regard as compared to other American whiskeys, other bourbons, other ryes, where you're not going to get that peated note unless they specifically tried to like smoke it or something along those lines. It definitely is evoking more of that campfire essence, that peatiness, that smokiness.
I think I know trying different drinks inside versus outside, different environmental factors play a key into sometimes how you take flavors and smells in. So I'm curious if being in front of a fire pit would have a different vibe to it. If that extra smoke coming in would change things up, especially being cooler outside. Like I would be willing to do that experiment for science.
I think maybe we might have to do that experiment for science. But I think we definitely have seen with some whiskeys, when you go either inside or outside, if it's a warm day outside, they definitely can open up a little bit. They can, the molecules start to spread out and make it easier to smell and those types of things. So you get different notes. Yep. I think we experienced that with like Lagavulin.
Oh, that was the first one when I drank it inside. And then I went outside. It was a humid day, and I got the briny, I got the heavy stuff. So
again, if you're looking for something that evokes the essence of camping, embodies the essence of camping, helps you feel like you're sitting by the campfire, things like that, you may want to see if you can find a bottle of Campfire in your area and give that a try. And with that, I think we'll start to talk about our topic for the week, which is
camping.
All right. So why camping? Why camping when it relates to a spirited life? Why is camping related to a spirited life?
Well, for me, I think it's on 2 points. One, camping. I've done it my whole life, and it just kind of brings a little oomph, nostalgia, a little something to me. Two, it fills my spirit. Being outside, campfires, being dirty, not showering for 2 days, taking naps outside, fills my spirit. The other part I think of is on a financial and a doing things aspect is if you do it well and do it locally, it isn't that big of a cost, but it's still like a vacation. It's still getting away. Why would you think camping for a spirited life?
Yeah, so for me, I think camping is about getting out there. It's about getting into nature, spending time outside, doing something that is away from the house, getting an opportunity, like you said, to recharge a little bit. In some cases, also get out, do some hiking, get active. A lot of times when we go camping, we are, getting out and we're doing, a couple mile hikes to go along with that and maybe seeing some places that we haven't seen before, something along those lines. So it's getting out into nature, getting to spend some time there, but also an opportunity to recharge, reset. And it does work really well with, being able to, at least to some degree, do it in a relatively reasonable way when it comes to, finances and those types of things. You can definitely get into camping, for a very reasonable cost. Now, you can get crazy with it, of course, right? And like anything, but compared to other costs of being able to get out, get vacations or get experiences, things like that, it is relatively approachable in terms of many of the different types of camping you can do. And in fact, if you're willing to do something like car camping, where you're literally sleeping in your car and you have the capability of doing that, you don't even have to buy a tent, right? You just have to show up with your car and maybe a sleeping bag inside of that at the campsite and rent a campsite, and you're good to go. So it could be as simple as that. So it makes it super approachable, but you definitely could get into camping and could spend quite a bit depending on the type of camping you want to do and what kind of camping there is that's out there. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but let's talk a little bit. And you talked about camping throughout our lives. talk a little bit about camping in your life and like what that means to you, because you said it's a little nostalgic for you.
So I grew up doing two kinds of camping. I did tent camping with my mom and my brothers, and then I did motorhome RV camping with my dad and that side of the family. And that was something we did like Memorial Day weekend. Like May was like the big start. Like, and we would do like Cedar Point camping in the RVs. That was like the start of the camping trip, and then we would go to different campgrounds. And this is gonna take forever now because now I'm gonna go down memory lane.
Go ahead.
Motorhome camping. It would be my dad would have a motorhome, my grandma, grandpa have a motorhome, my aunt, uncle would have a motorhome, and then family by marriage, they would have motorhomes. So there'd be like 5 people that would have motorhomes that would come camp. And so the most I remember is a lot of it was like sometimes in a C. So it'd be like a motorhome, 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 and then we all hung out in the middle.
So you guys would basically do like a family rally before rallies were even a thing.
Yeah. I'm looking back on it, so it's going to seem like it was like every month.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been every month. It could not have been. It very really could have, because motorhoming was a huge in my family. So we would just set up, and then everyone would come in, and then you would set up, and you watch everybody help each other, like try to navigate. And then everyone had a home base, and one of my memories would be like in the morning, I'd eat breakfast at my dad's motorhome, but then I'd go to my grandma, grandpa's and see what they were doing, and then I'd have breakfast there, and then go over to my aunt's motorhome over there and have snacks. And it was just fun because we were all kind of in like a little circle or half circle. I always remember it being a C, because I always, that sticks with me because my maiden last name started with a C. So I always remember being in the C. And then like my cousins would be there, all our dogs would be there, and we would just kind of hang out. There was always food in someone's motorhome, and there's always snacks. And then it would be like we would go off an adventure. And my family is very much of a go get dirty, go get muddy, go explore, go see what could happen type of adventure place. So I remember a lot of that. I think one of my biggest memories that stick with me, and it stayed with me all the way to, it stuck out at my grandma's funeral when I was looking through her art photographs. My grandma would always draw things. Like, she was one of the most creative people I know. And I just remember one of the times we were camping somewhere, and then just down the hill, then there was a lake, and then we'd go in the lake, and she would sit on the bank, and she was just drawing all of us in the lake. So that's kind of my camping. And then my mom's, it was a little different because it was just my mom. It wasn't a big spiel.
Yep.
But we would do camping. So it'd be my mom, my 2 brothers, and I, and we'd go camping. And that what kind of sticks with me again is I remember most. So my mom had to do it all on her own. So I give her kudos for getting the 3 of us together, getting the tent and getting everything set up. And then come at nighttime, we would have one book. We each were allowed to have one book. So we'd go in a book and read our book, and I read Babar, which is a horrible, so problematic if you ever go back and read these books.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, colonialism and like murder is horrible. But that was my Babar, and then my brother had Berenstain Bear books. Okay. So we'd go read the books, and then my mom would come in later. And then again, it would just, we'd wake up, have our snacks, we'd have our dog with us. And then we'd just go wander somewhere. And we usually ended up playing in like a creek or a stream or a river. It was an easy, fun vacation where we didn't go far. It didn't cost much money, but it felt like we were a world away.
1, that's awesome. 2, I think that's a lot of what it was for my family, because my family, we would do a couple different types of camping. We did tent camping also. That was... You know, one of the things that we did a few times, and sometimes we would go to a place where they actually had the tent set up for you, and you would just rent the tent, and that would eliminate kind of that need and make things kind of easy for parents.
So you didn't have to argue while you're trying to set up this tent, and your kids were being obnoxious.
Right.
You're like, I swear, you better get over here and help me with this pole, or you are not having roasted marshmallows.
Yeah, it was more along the lines of being able to go, and basically it was kind of like, the tents were already set up. They had cots in them and everything like that. Very approachable for families that way, because it's like, okay, we don't have to worry about sleeping on the ground. We don't have to worry about setting up the tent. Basically just roll up and unload your stuff, and you don't have to worry about setting up the tent. So we did that. We did also have our own family tent, and we used that a few times. What was big for us was cabin camping, and going out to locations where we get a cabin. And the cabins were basically like one step up from a tent, basically. Well, maybe 2, right? Because you would have typically like a fireplace and a stove in there, no running water. Like the water would be a well that was out in front of all of the cabins that everybody would share. Yeah, you'd have to go pump your own water.
Yep.
And everything like that. And the toilets were pit toilets. That at least it was like a building, but they were pit toilets. And when we would go, a few of the cabins had a sink and running water in them, so they could at least have that. So my grandma and grandpa on my dad's side, who we called Marnie and Boompa always got the cabin that had the sink because like they like to be able to do the washing up and take care of the dishes. It made things a little bit easier for them. Where for us, it was basically like, hey, we're on bunk beds that are basically like a mattress with some springs underneath it, and there's a wood stove, and then there's an oven, and a table made out of logs, like a picnic table inside the cabin. And it was great. And we did a lot of what you described too, where we would go and we bring our bikes and we go riding around or we go hiking up or we go fishing or things like that. And that was a lot of what we did. It was that opportunity for us to get out and get away, get a little bit of time to relax. That was relatively approachable and wasn't a significant cost, but could still be something for the kids to go keep busy and the parents to get away from real life for a little bit. And I think maybe that gets into a little bit of, camping for us as adults. We talked a little bit about this, but like, okay, so why camping now for us as adults?
I know. I was thinking about that. We both have our own camping histories.
Yes.
Then we didn't camp for a long time.
No.
We did not. We just recently got back to camping. So as you were speaking, I'm like, well, how, why was it? What was the trigger? How did we get back to it? And kind of finding that back. So as I'm sure if you listen to previous episodes, one of us is the, hey, let's do this. So, and then the other one's like, okay. So would you like to speak on your, hey, let's do this?
Sure. So yeah, that as I was thinking about this, like, okay, why do we get into camping now as adults? Well, I think that there's definitely some things we've always enjoyed getting outside, and we enjoy hiking, and we enjoy, like we've always enjoyed the local parks in the area and things like that. We enjoy, even when we've gone on like family trips, being able to go out and spend a couple miles on some of the trails at some of the different areas and those kinds of things.
Yeah, and let's be honest, when it's nice, I'm outside.
Yeah. And
the whole pretty much like I will take a nap outside. I'll come and use the bathroom. Maybe I'll shower. Maybe I won't shower. Like if it's nice, I will 100% be outside more than inside.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it because we're in Northern Ohio, we really enjoy when the weather is nice. And because when it comes to the wintertime, oftentimes it's cold and you don't necessarily want to be outside and you don't necessarily want to get outside as much. You're not spending all the time outside. And so because we have a limited window, I think that encourages us to try to take advantage of that even more. And why we really appreciate, even in the shoulder seasons, right? Like even now where it's still in like the high 30s to 40s, trying to get out a little bit more, spend a little bit more time outside. And when we get those really nice days where it peaks up into the 60s, then everybody's out at the park, right? So couple that with one, I kind of got into just, a little bit more of outdoorsy type stuff, watching some of those things around like, oh, these people who are out building cabins in the woods or doing hiking or doing different types of adventure, stuff like that. And then there was the final trigger, which was I was walking down the aisle at Aldi. And they have the everything aisle at Aldi, if you've ever been. And in the everything aisle, they had a tent and they had camping equipment. And so I talked to you and I said, I think we should go camping.
I think it paired up well, though, because we were also just coming back from being in Yellowstone. Before that, I went to Grand Teton. So we were doing a lot more outdoorsy things, which I know for me, like when we went to Yellowstone with our friends and did the hiking, the 5-mile hike and all that, it really ignited that itch for me to be able to do these things on a regular basis. So I think a lot of things just perfectly lined up.
Yeah, it was a confluence of events. So, and it was just building on something. To your point, we had already started spending some time and investing in, hey, we're going to get out and we're going to Yellowstone, and we got a cabin there. And it was one of those little cabins. Like, they actually had running water, but like no heater and no stove or anything.
Yeah.
But we went on, several different hikes there to see a bunch of different stuff and really enjoyed that. And, we did the cooking right there out of the back of the car and with the hot water kettle. And I remember the one time we did the boiling bags where you boil the water and then you pour it in, seal it up, and let it sit for 10 minutes. And then you have a nice little hot meal and stuff like that. It was great. It was
a charcuterie plate out by Graham.
Yes. And so do you want to talk about that for a minute, about where your grandma's at?
Yeah. So my grandma on my mom's side, she fostered a lot of love for national parks in my family. And she would always talk about how the Grand Tetons were one of her favorite national parks ever. She passed away, and she chose to be cremated. So half of her is at a local park that she has very close ties with. And the other half, it became a sibling trip. Me and my brothers took Graham to the Grand Tetons and found a place with the help of Ranger. Ranger helped us find a really nice place to release her ashes. So I have a spot where I could go find that's Grandma's spot. So coming back from Yellowstone with our friends was the first time I was back in that area since we were let our ashes go. So it kind of went down on the little river off the Snake, like an offshoot off the Snake River, and just sat there. And you had the Grand Tetons in the back or in the foreground, whatever the ground. You looked out to the Grand Tetons, and we were able to sit there and enjoy a snack and a drink with some friends. And it was kind of, I'm not I'm not an attached person, but it really hit me like, it was nice.
Yeah.
Stop.
So I'm going to, you're not typically sentimental, and you're about to now. Friends, I will tell you that if you do want to spread ashes in any sort of park, make sure that you get permission from the local rangers. In many cases, it's perfectly acceptable, but they may guide you about how to do that, or they may say, hey, we don't allow that in this particular area, or those types of things.
Yeah, and I will say,
do check with your local rangers, whether it's a state, federal, or local park, if you want to do something like that.
And I will say, for the national park for Grand Teton, they said, like, oh, it's just on this thing, you just do this permit. And I'm like, oh, hey, do you have any ideas? Like, here's the thing she loves, here's what, and they were really great in helping find a place that was both safe and beneficial for the nature, but also aligned with kind of what we were looking for.
Yes. So. Yeah. So absolutely do that if you're looking to do that.
Yes.
But I think that, that kind of shows, you have this tie back to nature and the affinity to nature that's been, fostered throughout your life. And that location is absolutely beautiful in terms of, where her final resting place is as a memory to her, and being able to go back and visit that. It really was beautiful, and it was nice to be able to visit that and enjoy that with her memory. So, but yeah, I think that there is definitely a confluence that happened there a few years ago that really kind of solidified the, hey, we're gonna get into camping. Let's go do camping.
So we came back and you had your tent. Do we want to talk about getting into our first tent camping experience as a married couple?
Yeah. So that confluence happened, and then it was essentially, hey, there's this camping stuff. We know we like that. Let's go try camping. And so because of that opportunity and the way that it presented itself, and essentially saying, hey, there's a relatively inexpensive, but what seems to be a reasonably good quality tent available from Aldi.
Correct.
This is the right type of camping for us to go try first. Again, relatively approachable, stuff like that. At that point, we still had both of our cars. Yep. So car camping wasn't really a great option. I'm sure we probably could have managed it if we really wanted to.
If we really were desperate, because it's you, me, and the dog.
Yeah.
In a Civic.
It would have been pretty tough with the three of us in a Civic. We would have had to put the seats back, and we would have figured it out. But and these are not Civic hatchbacks. These are just like regular Civics. So it's not even like you have like the big plate in the back to lay down in. But just kind of with how that worked out, like we delved into tent camping first. And so we, got a few things.
Found a local campsite. We're lucky. We have a lot of great local campsites within 30 minutes.
We have probably about 3 or 4 good campsites that are state or local campsites that are within 40 minutes of us.
So if we went and it went all to poo-poo,
yes,
it's easy to retreat and go back home.
Yeah, and that was definitely one of our conditions as we were dipping the toe in. We said, okay, hey, look, we're going to give this a shot. We're going to, go learn, watch some videos, and see how to do this, and then we're going to figure out how to approach that. And part of that is building out kind of a checklist of all of the things we need to take with us, and okay, how are we going to cook, pack up all of our stuff? What kind of stuff do we need? And honestly, we probably even went a little bit more into that than we needed to.
I know people when they've gone camping, they've just picked up takeout.
Yeah.
Had pizza. Yep. And had it for Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah.
Or that next day, like just drove out, went, gotten something, and came back. So even that food aspect of it doesn't have to be so intimidating.
Absolutely. And that's one of the ways to potentially make it more approachable is you can take things with you that are like prepared foods or that will hold up okay, that are shelf stable. And then you can go and eat out or bring food in with you that you know that you're going to eat while you're there. And that makes it much more approachable. So you don't even necessarily have to get a stove if you don't want to.
Yep.
Or like you can obviously build a fire and cook over the fire. There's always that option. And that's the
hot dogs on a stick.
Hot dogs on a stick it's the classic tradition, right? So we had the tent, we had a stove, we had, some basic cookware that we were going to take and things like that. And then, from there, we knew that we shouldn't just go out. And
we're doing it. Let's go.
Yeah, we weren't just gonna try and do it live. So
watch what happens.
Yeah, thankfully, like we did watch some videos on it to learn a little bit. And one of the things that people talked about is hey, you should test out all your stuff.
Which is good because I don't think I ever would have tested out my stuff until I was in the moment because that's just who I am.
Yeah, and me too. And like try to be a little bit more mindful to prevent some of that frustration. And that's one of the things that thankfully we kind of learned as an adult.
Well, I think it works good too. We had a dog and we weren't sure we still have a dog. We weren't sure how he was going to handle it. So we wanted to do a test run with him. Yeah.
And so we knew we wanted to do a test run of the gear. We knew we wanted to do a test run with the dog. And so we did what they recommended. We set it up in the backyard.
Backyard camping.
And so we did backyard camping. And frankly, I know a lot of people, that's how they get started with their first night out camping is in their backyard.
Yep.
And I know a lot of kids even do that.
Oh my gosh. I used to do that.
Yeah.
All the time. That was.
Yeah. And that's a great way to start getting into it, to start getting used to it and everything like that. And we did that when I was a kid. Like we would set up the tent and we would sleep outside. And then if you needed to come inside or, go to the bathroom, it makes it very easy to take that first step into sleeping outdoors. And part of what we discovered when we did that was we had cots that we bought.
No, you know what we started with?
Oh, no, that's right.
The air mattress.
I forgot. Apparently I purged that out of my memory, but you're right. We had an old air mattress. Yeah. It was one of the self-inflating air mattresses, and
it didn't go so well.
That did not go so well, which was a great learning, and I'm very glad that we tested that out before we tried to go out to a campsite with that, because it did not hold air very well.
For some people, it might go really well. They even might have better. I think for you and I kept rolling into you. On top of it, didn't hold air because it was probably old and had issues.
Yes.
Same air mattress, same. I'm old and have issues, but I kept rolling into you, and I need my space, and then the dog, and
yeah. And so we tested that out and we figured out pretty quickly that, okay, yeah, this air mattress isn't going to work. And actually we have friends who use an air mattress. They love it. It works really well for them. And I'm sure other people do too. But for us, that was a good way of testing. And then when we woke up in the morning, we cooked outside. So we cooked on the stove and basically tried out the gear that way. In terms of making breakfast and making coffee and everything like that. And all worked out really well because it allowed us to test that stuff out. And then from there, we got the cots, which we no longer use.
Yeah. The cots were a good idea,
Mhm.
except for ours weren't very firm. So it kind of went.
You get a little bit of the dip, a little bit
yeah.
of the U. Yeah.
And then the dog had trouble sleeping.
Yes. Because it's not a big 2-person cot, it's 2 individual cots, and usually he likes to sleep in between us. So that made it a little tough for him.
Yep.
So
then we went to inflatable air mattresses.
yeah.
Individual inflatable sleep pads.
Yes, individual inflatable sleep pads. So now we have a tent, we have individual inflatable sleep pads. We
bags.
have sleeping bags if we need them, but sometimes we just use blankets.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly
the dog uses a sleeping bag.
Mostly the dog uses a sleeping bag.
He likes to curl up in it.
You know, we've gotten an opportunity to get out and spend some time camping and see some of the places, and visit, you know, several different parks, go on different hikes there, everything like that. And that's been kind of the natural progression of us getting into tent camping and enjoying it. When you think about camping, the camping that we've been doing, what's the best part about camping for you? Or what are your top couple things that you really enjoy when we go camping?
I like being outside.
Mm-hmm.
I like that it's like an escape from everyday life, but it's not something that we have to put a lot of time and effort into. Like, it's easy to go for a weekend camping, so we could move that in. So it's like if you need a vacation and you need a break, it's not that hard to get into. It's easy to be removed from everyday life and stress. Like, go camping. I'm not worried about cleaning the house, and I'm not worried about doing laundry or all these other things, or watching TV or going down the YouTube rabbit hole. Like, it's a very good detachment.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
Yeah, I think some of the best things about camping for me is that kind of disconnect, the getaway, those types of things. I'm not thinking about all the stuff around the house. I'm not thinking about work as much or those kinds of things. I am, getting an opportunity to sit in front of the fire and just relax and have some nice whiskey and just enjoy nature. Definitely the hikes. I think like every single time we've gone out to go camping, we've always, prioritized going out for usually a pretty significant hike. And by significant for us, I'm saying like, somewhere between 3 to 5 miles.
Yeah.
Some folks would be like, that's
well, and there's no rush on it. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, you have to go out hiking and then you have to get home because you're supposed to be doing all these other things. It's like, we're going to go. There's no rush on time.
Yeah, that's the plan for the day. The plan for the day is to go hiking and then come back.
Have a drink, sit in your hammock, and relax.
Yeah, or take a nap or, read a book or whatever. And so the day is still structured, but it's not nearly as structured or not nearly, I don't feel the weight of kind of the rest of all of the things around the house or what I feel like maybe I should be doing. It does a little bit of that rejuvenation that way and getting outside. And frankly, I enjoy and I kind of have fun doing some of the meal planning and being able to figure out how to cook some of those things while on the go. And
you've whipped up some very tasty meals. Yeah,
like that's actually fun for me is to whip up some good tasty stuff. And when I show people what I make, they're like, "You eat that while you're camping?" It's like, absolutely.
And I think that's the first step. And other than motorhome camping, where we had all like the stuff in the motorhome and stuff,
right?
Like my camping meals have been literally like hot dogs on a stick, marshmallows, and like probably some chips or cookies.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's still a place for those things. It's still nice to have hot dogs.
But you could whip up a really good quesadilla or that gumbo that you made.
Yeah, the jambalaya type stuff
that I
made, or gumbo that I made was really good. And I actually think that was probably one of my best recipes that I've made. That it felt like a great camp meal, but it was really kind of elevated a little bit beyond just hot dogs or burgers or stuff like that. It was definitely something a little bit different. And so that for me, that's one of the things that I enjoy is trying to figure out how to, do a little bit of meal planning and then, spend a little bit of time outside cooking because it's novel. It's different. It's different than just like, whipping something up in the kitchen, which is also fun. But like there is something about being out there in nature and doing that out as a part of that. So, and with the, for us, essentially tent camping where we have the car there, we can bring a lot more stuff in that regard to make it a little bit more comfortable, a little bit easier.
Yep.
Right. So we have the 2-burner stove, we have a table, we have the netted dome that we have for sitting and stuff like that. So all things that, kind of make that a little bit more comfortable, while still feeling somewhat rustic.
Yeah.
So it's not on the level of like, cabin camping where you've got like solid walls around you.
But you see, like I remember the first time we went to the first campground, we went for like the wide variety of camping available. You had like the motorhomes.
Mm-hmm.
You had pop-ups. You had people that slept out of their cars, car camping.
Mm-hmm.
You had tent campers. And then you had people that set up like this whole thing in there. It's tents, but they have like a tent village set up, and then they have like string lights, and like they go all out. Some people had like this big sheet, and they had to project. They brought their projector to watch a movie. Like there's such a wide variety of what people could do.
Mm-hmm.
Just leaves it wide open.
Yeah, those group camping sites where they give you more space and you can set up multiple tents and things like that probably work really good for like family type events like what your family used to do. Mm-hmm. But you all did it with motorhomes. But yeah, there definitely is those different types of camping that are out there. And right now we've mostly been doing the tent camping. We've talked a little bit about potentially getting a travel trailer of some sort, or something along those lines. And now we do have a vehicle that would be able to do some towing, things like that. Potentially trailer camping in our future if we decide to go down that route. I know we've been kind of talking back and forth
hemming
about that
and hawing.
Yeah, a little bit. Like it's kind of tough to make a commitment because we also we've talked about, okay, if we were to do that, what would that look like and what can our vehicle actually pull? And what would we get that's a step up from tent camping, but maybe is not too much of a compromise for us?
Well, I think when you go from trailer camping, it's everything down from it's like a little bed, walled shelter, to all the way up to a fifth wheel. Like you could get, it depends. Like there is a wide range of trailer camping. So I think we have to figure out kind of what it is that we want. Whether we want that, hey, we could just stay inside and watch TV and have the couch, or if we just want something that accentuates. Yeah.
But I think we've already talked about that, where we've said like we're not looking for something that is essentially a home replacement. We would look more for something that is essentially like a step up from the tent. Like we're not necessarily looking for something that would be like, hey, we're gonna go camp here, but we're gonna spend all of our time inside the RV or anything like that. Which, no shame if that's what people want to do. I just don't think that that's what we want, because we prefer to be spending more of our time outside where we can. But there is also like, you could go as small as like, if you literally just want a bed in a box on wheels, you could get a teardrop. But I know when we looked at those, because we went to the RV show the one year, like you looked at those and went, yeah, that might be a little too small. That might be.
Yeah, I might as well just sleep in my car.
Right. And so there is still some dialing in that we would need to figure out about kind of like what Goldilocks looks like for us on that. There's lots of other different types of camping that you can do. Also, there's like hike in, hike out camping. There's, hammock camping, which is a form of that you can do. There's cabin camping, which we did one time, back during right as things were starting to open up.
Yep.
Like we needed to get away, and this was back during the time around COVID. After things had started to open up a little bit, and things became available, we still wanted to do something that we felt was relatively safe for us, and so we found the ability to go get a cabin, and that was the ability for us to again get away, do a little bit of camping, something with the dog to get him used to being away. It was at one of the local places, about 40 minutes from here, and it was that right balance of being able to get outside, spend some time outside. At that point, I was actually still able to take my laptop and do some gaming from there, because I was still doing that really regularly and had more commitments around that. But yeah, all of those different types of camping are all still versions of camping. And I think the big thing maybe to take away from that is whatever works for you, get out there and do it, and go start to try it out, and find a way to do it in a way that you can try it, to get out and enjoy nature, enjoy that experience of being by a fire and roasting marshmallows and making s'mores or cooking over the fire and spending time with friends.
Watching all the fireflies in the trees.
Yeah, watching.
You forget how much, like, it literally is like little, like, flashes of light everywhere. You forget that when you're not in a forest and it's dark outside.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think when it comes to camping, it really is that opportunity to get out there and relax, rejuvenate. Also the opportunity to get out, spend time with family, spend time with friends. We had family come visit us the one time at the campsite.
That's right. We had quite a crew come out.
Yeah, so they came out and they enjoyed and sat by the fire with us and everything like that. And then we also have some friends where now that's a part of what we do together and how we spend time together. So our friends Aaron and Kim, we've gone out, we've done cabin camping with them when we were in Yellowstone, and also lots of hiking and visited some other places to do more hiking, but still a little bit of cabin camping. And then also our friends Brian and Julie.
You introduced them to the Aldi tent.
I did introduce them to the Aldi tent and said, hey, by the way, like, if you're interested, in camping, things like that, there's this tent and it's actually on sale, so it's even cheaper than it already was. And they're like, yeah, can I Instacart that? Turns out they could.
I forgot about that.
And so they did. They got it via Instacart, and then they've started going camping and
they camp like I think last year they camped like once a month.
Just about once a month. They started getting out and spending time camping and everything like that, which is awesome. And so we'll definitely get out there and camp with them, I'm sure, a couple times this year. But it is that opportunity to start spending time with friends. And so as much as you can, just get out there and do it. And that's what I think what I would encourage people the most to get out and do is to just get out and start to experience it in the way that you think would work best for you. And even if it doesn't, the first thing that you try doesn't work well for you, that's fine. Maybe try something else. So maybe you try tent camping, and maybe that's not initially your thing. Maybe you do want more of a cabin opportunity. Great. Then go do some cabin camping.
Or even I think if even cabin camping or tent camping is a little intimidating, just take a day and go and like day camp, like not actually bring a tent or anything, but go to a park and bring like a hammock and a chair or something and plan your meals. So you just spend the day outside, you go hiking or you hang out if there's a lake at your park, you sit and you hang out and you read, you take a nap, but you kind of spend a day outside. So you could get into that, see if you even like it before you go for a whole spending a night somewhere and it being not what you intended and getting very angry. Yeah,
and thank you for bringing that up, because I forgot to bring that up when we were talking about kind of the different types of camping. And that day camping is an easy way of being able to just pick up, get out, still get some of the benefits of getting away from the house and your day-to-day worries, get out into nature, do a little bit of rejuvenation and things like that, and still not have to worry about setting up a tent, setting up a full camp, being able to come home at the end of the evening and sleep in your bed. And that is probably a good first step and is relatively approachable. So thank you for bringing that up. I know we'll be looking into doing some of those throughout the year. And as we start to do some of those, we'll probably put some things up on either YouTube or on Instagram or those types of things to talk a little bit more about that. So I think that pretty much covers it. Every episode, we like to take a moment to reflect back on our previous week and talk about what filled our spirit this week. Christine, what filled your spirit this week?
The first thing that filled my spirit was that I am not sick anymore. I had the flu. I was down. It sucked. It hurt a lot. I got to the point where I was negotiating with my body where it's like, okay, if you just get healthy, I promise I'll take care of you. Then I got in the upswing, feeling better. I think another thing that filled my spirit was driving home from work the one day. We passed one of the parks that we go to on a regular basis. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stop here and go for a walk down by the river. So I kind of meandered around by the river before I came home. And it was really nice to see outside. Saw some different ducks I've never seen before. And just getting a moment to get that fresh air.
You spend a lot of time with a lot of different ducks?
No, dude, I showed you the picture. They are not normal ducks. They're not mallards. They're not wood ducks. I had to Google them. They are migrating ducks.
All right. Awesome. Not every day that you see migrating ducks.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
How about you? What filled your spirit?
Yeah, so what filled my spirit this week actually goes right in line with the topic for this week, talking about camping and getting ready for camping. So as started getting ready to talk about this episode, it kind of started getting the itch to start taking a look at camping gear and get ready. And in the meantime, we've scheduled our first camping trip of the season that we talked about. So that was great. And now we have that to look forward to. And in the coming weeks, I'll start to get things out. You kind of shake everything out, make sure it's all good to go, so we're ready to go for that trip. But in the meantime, I started looking at, was there anything that we wanted to pick up or to get as far as for any of our camping or hiking. And so, there's some great deals that are going on right now and things like that. So, take a look out there. If you are interested in any of this, there's some sales that are going on in terms of some of the winter gear, because we're moving out of the winter here in the United States. You can maybe find some good, winter or, spring type gear that might be on sale because we're coming out of that season. And then also, some of the places, because they know that camping is going to be coming up, they do have some things that are on sale. The REI just had their member sale and things like that. So we took a trip down there and we were looking for a few things. So, yeah, it was fun. And I enjoy that kind of preparation and the anticipation and the building up maybe as much as I enjoy doing the thing itself.
That's all we have this episode. What do we have on deck for next?
Yeah, so believe it or not, we are already at the end of the quarter. And so it is time to take a look back at the first quarter of this year and see how things have gone. And so we're going to spend a little time reflecting on what's happened in the first quarter of this year. Spoiler alert, it's a lot.
It's been a quarter.
It has been a quarter for sure. And so a lot has happened. And so we're going to take some time to reflect on that and talk through what's happened in that quarter, how we're doing on our goals, some of the things that have affected that, and just do some general reflection on life too. So it'll be great.
Cool.
In the meantime, we hope you live a spirited life. The topics and information on A Spirited Life should not be taken as financial advice and should be considered for entertainment purposes only.